You ever scroll through your backlog thinking, I should really play something new, and then load up Skyrim for the 15th time? Yeah, same here. But this time, let's break the cycle. Over the last 5 years, we've seen some of the boldest, weirdest, and most unmissable RPGs drop, and I'm betting you skipped at least a few. So today we're diving into 10 RPGs that hit so hard, they made me forget Skyrim even existed.
My father has Colorado in the palm of his hand.
Wasteland 3 doesn't care about your perfect build or how cool your armor looks. What it cares about is punishing you for not packing thermal gear in a snowstorm, while you're surrounded by lunatics with rocket launchers. Set in a frozen, post-nuke Colorado, the game throws you into a world where diplomacy, violence, and total absurdity are all valid solutions, sometimes at the same time. It's grim, it's darkly funny, and somehow it never stops surprising you. Built by the team at Inxile, Wasteland 3 is all about decisions that actually matter. We're talking world-shifting choices, where the faction you back or the stranger you spare can come back hours later and completely change your game. It's shorter and less complex than Baldur's Gate 3, sure, but that just means it gets to the point faster. No endless min-maxing spreadsheets, just pure chaos with real impact. The combat system is tight and tactical, running on action points, squad-based positioning, and a healthy dose of environmental abuse. You've got medics, snipers, heavy weapons specialists, and tech experts, each with roles that actually feel distinct. And unlike most CRPGs, the loot here isn't just vendor trash. Where the game really flexes, though, is outside of combat. Skill checks aren't just flavor text, they're game changers. Want to avoid a gunfight by charming a robot with toaster repair? It's totally possible. And hacking, lockpicking, sneaking, even animal whispering, all of it opens up alternate paths, rewards, and sometimes hilarious outcomes. You manage a full squad, so you can spread those skills around, making each character feel like an actual part of your strategy, not just a stat holder. And when a game lets you resolve conflicts with a flamethrower or a well-timed speech check, that's the kind of RPG freedom that hits different.
I see you, you fucker!
I'll put one in your skull for that!
Elden Ring is what happens when a developer goes completely unchained and nails almost every decision. It took the brutal DNA of older Souls games and stretched it across a massive open world that actually rewards you for exploring. Instead of breadcrumbs, it drops entire storylines and item descriptions, hidden dialogue, and background design, daring you to piece it all together without a checklist. The combat keeps that familiar stamina-based rhythm, but the new mechanics add way more flexibility. Ashes of War let you modify weapons with special moves, turning a basic sword into something that fits your exact build. One minute you're throwing lightning bolts, the next you're melting enemies with blood damage or summoning spectral blades mid-combo. It's not just about picking the strongest option, it's about creating a playstyle that feels like your own personal chaos. The Lands Between is full of secrets, ambushes, and cursed corners that punish anyone moving on autopilot. You'll stumble into catacombs crawling with horrors, castles rigged with traps, or entire regions swallowed by rot. There's always something waiting to kill you, and somehow that's the charm. And of course, the boss fights are in a whole different level. Every major enemy feels handcrafted to ruin your day, but if you're patient, learn the patterns, and build smart, you'll get through, probably. Elden Ring isn't just hard for the sake of it. It's built to push you to explore, experiment, and keep moving forward, no matter how many times you die trying. And somehow, even after dozens of hours, there's still that weird thrill of not knowing what nightmare waits around the next corner. Sea of Stars might have launched with the weight of insane expectations, but the truth is, it never needed to be the next Chrono Trigger. It carved out its own space with confidence, charm, and a clear love for classic RPGs. Visually, it nails that old-school Super Nintendo vibe, but it moves with the polish and speed of a modern game. Exploration isn't just for show. Hidden paths, optional puzzles, and well-placed secrets give the world real texture. The pacing's tight too. No bloated filler, just focused content that respects your time. If you dig into the side areas, you'll find stuff that actually matters, not just throwaway collectibles. The combat stands out immediately because it's turn-based but never slow. Timed hits and defense mechanics add rhythm, making every action feel involved, as you're not just selecting moves, you're reacting and staying sharp. Then there's the lock system, which gives battles a layer of strategy, with enemies that will telegraph strong moves, and you've got a small window to break them with the right mix of attacks. One of the smartest tweaks is how MP works. Instead of hiding behind cooldowns or potion spam, the game rewards regular attacks with MP regeneration. That means you're always flowing between standard moves and special skills. Then add combo abilities that change based on your party setup, and the battles stay fresh from start to finish. You also get buffs, status effects, and a cooking system that lets you prepare meals in advance, way more useful than random loot. It's not just another indie throwback. It's a modern classic that understands what made those old games great and actually builds on it. Somehow, this quiet CRPG based on Dungeons & Dragons turned into one of the biggest gaming events of the decade. Baldur's Gate 3 came out swinging with turn-based combat, dense dialogue trees, and enough dice rolls to make your head spin, and instead of scaring people away, it pulled them in like crazy. What used to be niche suddenly felt essential, and everyone from hardcore tabletop fans to total newcomers jumped in. What makes it special isn't just the combat or the writing, it's how the game refuses to put you in a box. You can make the weirdest choices, build a chaotic crew of misfits, and the game actually adapts. Your story bends and twists around every decision, no matter how reckless or clever they are, and your fights can be slow strategic puzzles or full-on disasters you barely survive. And the best part? Almost none of it feels scripted. Under the hood, it's a love letter to 5th edition D&D. It keeps the core mechanics like spells, stats, positioning, advantage rolls, but smooths out the rough edges to keep things moving. You're encouraged to get creative, pushing enemies off cliffs, lighting oil puddles on fire, or tossing explosive barrels across the battlefield. And even outside combat, the dice keep rolling. Every conversation, trap, or lie you try to sell is affected by your character's build, and the tension of seeing that 20-sided dice land can completely shift the outcome of a scene. But the real chaos kicks in when you play with friends. Co-op in Baldur's Gate 3 is barely controlled madness. Everyone has their own character, their own priorities, and their own ability to completely derail a plan. One player might be sneaking through a dungeon while another starts flirting with a demon, and somehow it all works. There's no pause button, no forced synchronization, just total freedom and pure unpredictability. Quick pause. If you're having a good time so far, smash that like button. Seriously, it takes half a second and helps way more than you think. Also, tell me this. Which RPG from the past 5 years do you think deserves way more love? Drop it in the comments, I check them all, I reply when I can, and yeah, it helps keep this channel growing. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's your chance. It's free, it's easy, and according to science, it instantly boosts your cool factor. Right from the start, Chained Echoes throws you into a world on the edge of collapse, where kingdoms are at war, trust is a rare currency, and betrayal hits harder than any boss fight. It's the kind of RPG that feels handcrafted because it literally is, built almost entirely by one developer who clearly grew up loving the same 16-bit classics we did. But instead of just mimicking the old formula, it refines it. There's airships, mechs, political drama, and magic, all packed into a story that actually moves. The cast is sharp, well-written, and every scene pushes things forward. No filler, no wasted dialogue. Just a tight, emotional ride that respects your time and rewards your curiosity. Combat is where the game really flexes. The overdrive system forces you to think, because you can't just spam your best attacks. Each move affects a momentum bar, and keeping it in the sweet spot gives you buffs while reducing damage taken. But if you overheat the bar, your team takes a hit. And instead of mindless grinding for XP, Chained Echoes gives you upgrade points for doing stuff that actually matters, like clearing quests, beating optional bosses, or exploring the map. You use those points to unlock and boost specific skills on a grid, making progression more strategic and way less repetitive. Gear upgrades follow the same logic. No loot overload, just a crystal system that lets you fine-tune your weapons and armor with real benefits. It's not just a love letter to the genre, it's proof that passion, when done right, can go toe-to-toe with the giants. When Yakuza Like a Dragon showed up, it flipped everything fans thought they knew about the series. No more real-time brawling in alleyways. This time, it's full-on turn-based chaos, packed with party members, special abilities, and some of the most unhinged battle animations you'll ever see. The reason it works? Ichiban. He's not your typical tough guy. He's a full-blown RPG nerd who grew up idolizing Dragon Quest. In his head, every fight is a fantasy boss battle, and the game rolls with that idea all the way through. You're still fighting in the streets of Yokohama, but now you're dishing out damage with absurd jobs like breakdancer, idol, or even chef. Each one has its own moveset and effects, and they all play into the strategy. You can mix and match jobs to create your ideal team, and the combinations can lead to some wild synergies. But the real hook is how deeply tied everything is to the characters themselves. The bond system goes beyond just stats. It's about building real relationships. As your party spends time together, talks over meals, and completes side content, they grow closer. That unlocks combo attacks, buffs, and even personal story arcs that make the whole team feel more human. It's subtle, but it makes a huge difference when you're knee-deep in a tough boss fight and suddenly unlock a dual finisher because two characters became best friends. And yeah, the game's difficulty curve doesn't mess around. There's a point where the enemies suddenly hit like trucks, and if you haven't been leveling properly or building the right team, you're gonna feel it. But it fits the tone, because this is a story about misfits pushing through impossible odds, and the grind, the setbacks, and the comebacks all make that climb feel real.
You're gonna get stomped.
Cool.
Let's go. You certainly.
If you thought the first Octopath Traveler had style, the sequel cranks it up to 11 and doesn't look back. It keeps the same HD 2D look that made the original stand out, but now the environments are richer, the lighting is sharper, and the whole thing just moves smoother. It feels like you're watching a living painting, but one where every pixel's doing overtime to impress you. And the soundtrack? Absolute fire. From mellow piano tracks to full-blown fantasy anthems, it nails the vibe every time. But visuals aside, the real meat is in the combat. It's turn-based, sure, but there's so much depth baked into every mechanic that it never gets old. You've got breakpoints to stagger enemies, boost points to stack power, and a dual job system that completely changes how you build your team. You can turn a healer into a spell-slinging beast, or give your tank some surprising support skills, and the mix and match options only get crazier the more you experiment. Then there's the latent power system, a mechanic that charges up as you deal or take hits. Once it's full, you can unleash powerful moves unique to each character. Some break the turn order, some deal massive area damage, and others give you extra turns on the spot. It's not about spamming the strongest move over and over. It's about timing, reading the flow of battle, and knowing when to go all in. Octopath Traveler 2 doesn't just polish the formula, it refines it in all the right ways. Everything from character progression to battle pacing feels tighter and more rewarding. And with smarter storytelling that actually connects the party members in meaningful ways, it finally feels like a cohesive journey instead of 8 disconnected stories.
Here we go. Huh? And now. Well now, look at these hands.
Where was I?
Soldier first class, right?
Yeah.
Weird.
Final Fantasy VII Remake didn't just update a classic, it completely flipped the script. What was once a linear turn-based RPG became a high-speed hybrid of real-time action and tactical decisions. The combat feels sharp and responsive, built around switching characters on the fly, syncing up special abilities, and punishing enemies at just the right moment. You've got to think fast, but not too fast to lose control. And the boss fights? Total chaos in the best way. Every one of them feels like its own event, with shifting phases, cinematic flair, and mechanics that force you to stay on your toes. The materia system makes a strong return, but it's not just there for nostalgia, it's a core part of your strategy. You're customizing spells, boosting stats, unlocking counters, stacking elemental damage, and all of it blends seamlessly into the moment-to-moment gameplay. It's one of the rare systems where you can actually feel the difference in battle depending on how you build your loadout, and every character plays differently. Cloud's got raw power and parries. Barrett brings ranged support, and Aerith turns magic into a full-blown artillery barrage. What keeps everything tight is how the game balances freedom with structure. You've got skill trees, weapon upgrades, and enough depth to reward experimentation, but it never feels bloated. It respects your time without dumbing things down. That's a tough balance to pull off, but this game nails it. And if you're thinking about diving into Rebirth, just know that it doesn't hold back. It expands the world, builds on the foundation, and cranks up the emotional stakes. But even if you stick with the remake, you're still getting one of the most polished and daring RPGs of the last decade.
Don't like the looks of this. Stay on.
Yes, sir.
Whoa. That was insane.
You think you have the strength to protect the weak?
Metaphor ReFantazio dropped in 2024 and felt like a fever dream you actually wanted to stay in. Built by the team behind Persona and Shin Megami Tensei, it doesn't just borrow their DNA. It mutates it into something stranger, deeper, and more experimental. The game throws you into a dense, lore-heavy world where politics and personal identity collide, and everything feels like it matters. From the architecture to the alliances, it's all layered with meaning, like a fairy tale written by someone who's been through a few existential crises. What makes Metaphor stand out isn't just the setting, it's how it rethinks your entire party setup. The archetype system replaces the traditional job class format with roles that are psychological, symbolic, and evolving. You're not assigning someone to be a basic tank or mage, you're shaping them through themes like rebellion, desire, and truth. These archetypes evolve as the story unfolds, influenced by the choices you make and the relationships you build. Combat is turn-based, but far from passive. Positioning matters, initiative can be manipulated, and certain abilities let you mess with the turn order in ways that completely change the rhythm of a fight. Some archetypes play well together, while others clash unless you've built the right synergy. Even your political alignment adds passive effects that subtly tilt the odds in your favor, or against you, depending on your choices. Visually, Metaphor is stunning, with painterly environments and character designs that feel like concept art come to life. The soundtrack shifts from haunting ambiance to high-energy chaos, perfectly matching the game's emotional tone. And while the pacing might feel dense at first, once the systems click and the story opens up, it becomes hard to put down.
this race to become king, are you?
Not exactly.
I'd treat all tribes equally.
When Cyberpunk 2077 first dropped, it was a mess. Glitches everywhere, missing features, and a launch so chaotic it practically became a meme. But what's wild is how much it turned things around. After tons of patches and a full-blown expansion, the game finally lives up to the original vision. Night City went from a barely playable mess to one of the most detailed, reactive, and immersive open worlds in any RPG. You don't just see Night City, you live in it. The world is vertical, dense, and buzzing with life. There's something happening on every corner, from gang shootouts and weird street performers to shady deals and secret alleyways. It's the kind of place where just walking around feels like part of the gameplay. One of the biggest overhauls came with the perk and cyberware systems. Early on, it felt like you were dumping points into random stats with no real direction. But now every perk actually shapes how you play. You can go full stealth, hack cameras and enemies from across the street, or build a brawler who runs headfirst into fights and walks out without a scratch. Your abilities are directly connected to your cyberware, and the new system forces you to think about your build instead of just stacking upgrades for fun. Cyberware isn't just cosmetic either. You've got a limit based on how much your body can handle, so picking between double jump legs or quick hack enhancements actually matters. Maybe you give up healing boosts to equip arm-mounted rocket launchers, or skip the melee upgrades in favor of faster hacking cooldowns. Every setup feels different, and the way enemies react now makes combat feel way more alive. It's no longer just an RPG where you shoot stuff. It's a full-on sandbox where your choices, gear, and build completely change the experience. If you dropped it at launch, now's the time to come back. But if you're still itching for more games to dive into, don't worry, I've got backup. I'm dropping 2 extra lists at the end. One packed with tactical RPGs, and another full of action RPGs that completely hijacked my free time. These are the kind of games you start just to check out, and suddenly it's 3 a.m. So, you've been warned.